Thank you for the call, Ms. Chairman. Thank also to the member of the Māori Party who is speaking in support of this bill, and want to acknowledge the work and effort that my colleague Diane Fenton is putting into this, because this is an important topic insofar as many communities throughout the country of ours, and particularly in my neighbourhood, where we are seeing the effects and impact of the recession. And the schedule here, as outlined in Part 2, lists a range of jobs that people are doing out of desperation, I would have to say, at this point in time. I had difficulty listening to some of the members from the other side because they are on one track in terms of the arguments they're presenting. I mean, one member said that why was this bill not introduced by the government, the Labour government? And the bill was in 2006, and it needs to be known that we had a minority government, sir, and therefore at the end of that discussion of that bill, they were unable to pass it because of objection not only from on that side of the House, but also other members who are no longer in this House. And yep, that's right. And I would say, look, I also heard Mr. Peachy, a wonderful member who believes should have been the Minister of Education, and I believe he should be. But he said the electorate has spoken. Mr. Chair, I suspect that that has to do with the feeling that national government have about that now that they have won the election, they feel that they can essentially do anything they want to do. And I would ask the members of the public listening, is this the kind of government that you expected? That in 6 months, rather 5 months, because they went on holiday for the other month, in 5 months, they're showing some arrogance that they are prepared to just push things through without allowing people to have their say. And I want to say also that I think if they looked into their hearts of hearts, they would recognise that this is about protection of vulnerable workers, vulnerable people during a vulnerable period in our history, sir. And take, for example, the International Labour Organization, they have a saying that they've promoted for years on end, that poverty anywhere threatens wealth everywhere. And I'll repeat that again, just in case they don't hear me on the other side. Poverty anywhere threatens wealth everywhere. And they are unable, the other side, are unable to see the big picture, that these aren't crocodile tears. This is about being genuine, sincerely concerned about the state of affairs that many of our communities are experiencing. In Mangere, we've, as of March, the figures show of 1,098 unemployed, sir. Between the ages of 18 and 24, 381. But there's a bigger group with 25, the age group of 25-64, 717. If these workers were in a contractual relationship for services as listed in Schedule 2, they are in a vulnerable position to negotiate for a fair wage, sir, because they don't have this minimum protection. It might be okay for young people who goes up to their employer and says, look, they'll deliver the leaflet or whatever pamphlets that are available for $25 a month. That might be okay for a young person because they can say, well, stuff you, the employer, and I'll go and do something else because they can be looked after by their parents. But if they're elderly folks with children to look after, with a mortgage, they've got some concerns. Now, imagine the 6,300 staff of local government in the Auckland region who have been threatened with redundancies already, and they don't know what their future is in terms of this. That's why this bill becomes quite important, to provide some basic protection for workers who, through no fault of their own, maybe out of desperation because of the difficult times, need some protection in order to be able to get a fair deal in terms of the work that they're doing. So, Mr. Chair, just a few more points I want to make. I would say to the other side, the questions that they need to answer, sir, and just to round things off, is there a need to protect vulnerable workers? On this side, we would say yes. The other question, do New Zealanders of all heritage at this time want jobs? The answer is yes. And the third question is, do workers, New Zealanders in these sort of job situations, do they want a fair wage? And again, the answer is yes. Now, unless the other side are saying no to those questions, well then, sir, I just have to question the arrogance of them continuing to say that this is bad bill. It is good bill for the protection of people who need the protection in these difficult times, and they will be watching this government next day in terms, are this government prepared to provide jobs? Is this government prepared to provide jobs that provide incomes to sustain people and their families? And I would say, let's wait and see. That's our expectation of this government. Yep. I'm not sure that they are going to be delivering that, because if we go by the answers to the questions they delivered earlier today about the potential broken promises that they've made, it's disgusting. And if I were a national member, I'd be considering quitting the National Party now. And I see my friend Mr. Bakshi on the other side. He should be quitting the National Party now. And maybe... So... And I know Tau Henare, he should have been the Māori, Minister of Māori Affairs. He should be quitting the National Party and joining the Māori Party, perhaps to give some support to the people that are wanting protection in this day and age. Thank you for your time.
Honourable Tau Henare.